Okay. So now we'll talk about production possibility diagrams. So what they're called is production possibility frontiers. So production possibility frontiers. Are you familiar with this? Have you heard of this? It's just revision for you, so hopefully you do. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So PPFs, what they are is they basically show the maximum productive potential of an economy. So they want us to be able to draw these. They want us to show resource allocation, opportunity cost on this, unemployment. We'll go through all of these. So what PPFs show is the maximum productive potential of an economy using a combination of two goods and services when resources are efficiently employed. So it basically shows it's like a possibility frontier. So it's where the economy could be if they're operating at their maximum. So this is kind of what they look like. Let me draw out what it would look like. So this is kind of what it looks like. So let's just say output. Give me an example of two goods we could do here. That we need to use together to make something. Let me try to come up with an example. Huh?
Isn't it cheese and milk?
Okay, cheese and milk. You can make both of them using the same kind of resources. Well done. So this is what the PPF would look like. Or look a bit more curvy than that. Yeah. So this is the PPF, what we'll label it as. And yeah, this is the maximum possible output of anything on this line is when the resources are fully and efficiently used. So anything along this line is when the output of cheese is maximized and the output of yogurt is, output of milk is maximized. So what they do is they show PPF curves show opportunity cost. So PPF. And they show by showing the trade-off between two different resources. So the way it does this is you can see, for example, if we were here on the PPF at this point, you can see that we're producing much more milk than we are producing cheese. Because look, this is how much cheese is being made and this is how much milk is being made. Let's say this is 100 units and this is, I don't know, 20 units. A lot more milk is being produced than cheese. So that's an opportunity cost. You can see the opportunity cost on the diagram because we've made more units of milk, but at the cost of making less cheese. So if we were higher up here, we'd see opportunity cost again, but the other way around. Let's say this is 100 and this is 40 or 30. You can see that we've lost this, the opportunity cost of, so they could ask you a question and ask you, okay, what's the opportunity cost of producing at this point? Okay, point A, point B. So what's the opportunity cost from producing from point A to point B? Could you help me figure that out?
The opportunity cost would be
Of milk. Let's start with
sacrifice
milk.
So
Sorry?
you have to sacrifice milk, so you have to do 100 minus 30, which is 70. So you would miss out 70 units of milk.
Okay, so that's the opportunity cost. We're missing out on 70 units of milk. Well done. And what are we gaining?
Cheese.
How many units?
You gain 80 units.
That's our opportunity cost. And we are gaining 80 units of cheese. So this is showing opportunity cost. And this is a really good depiction of it. But yeah, that's an example. But yeah, there's different points on the diagram, and you need to know what each of the different points means. So let me draw another PPF diagram here. Let's do output of X and output of Y this time, because, I don't really like that example. Output of Y. So it's going to look like this. So anywhere on this line means that we are efficiently combining the outputs to make as much as we can. But if we're producing, on this line, let's call this point, I don't know, point A. Yeah, anywhere on this line is efficient. We're using our resources efficiently. We're using the efficient combination of X and Y to make the goods. So let's just write efficient here. Efficient. Anywhere on this curve is efficient. But obviously I don't want to confuse you. Let's just call it point A. Oops. Okay. We've got point C here. What do you think point C means?
Point C means that you're not using all of your factors of production to produce the maximum possible.
Well done. Yeah, it's inefficient. We're not at our productive potential. We're not at our full productive potential. We are not using our FOPs correctly, or I call them FOPs, but they are factors of production. We are not using them efficiently, which means that we obviously want to get closer to this. This is our ideal. This is our production possibility frontier. So there's unemployment of resources. So there's unemployment. At this point, there's unemployment of resources. This is not good. We're not using our resources efficiently. We don't want to be at C. But if we're at, theoretically point E, what do you think this means?
That means that you can't achieve it because the curve is not, unless there's a shift in the curve. But
yeah, so this is unattainable. So this can't happen unless the curve shifts out, like you said. Well done. Obviously, in this case, no, this isn't possible. You can't be, producing more than your possible production possibility. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, they might try to trick you in your exam, so it's just important to be able to distinguish between the different points. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next bit. Let's move on to the shifts of the PPF curve. So that's exactly what you brought up. So good point for that. Let me see. Okay. So if there's economic growth or economic decline, if the economy stagnates, then what's going to happen is the PPF is going to shift. So this is like more of a macro PPF, but it's still relevant in micro. So the reason why it's more of a macro PPF is because of the axes. So we label it consumer goods over here. Consumer goods. And capital goods over here. Are you making sure you're writing notes, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is our PPF. This is our normal PPF. Let's call it PPF 1. We do have to label our curves based on, the numbers. If there was economic growth, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think this PPF is going to go down? The productive potential of the economy, is it going to increase or is it going to decrease?
Increase. So
yeah.
the curve would shift
that way, right?
Yeah. So
it's just going to be a bit difficult to draw. I'm going to try anyway. Yeah, okay. PPF 2. See, it's shifted out. That happens with economic growth. Economic growth. And obviously, if there's economic decline, it will shift inwards PPF 3. And this is with, let's just do it in the same color. Oh, no, that's not. This is with economic decline. Okay, great. Are we happy with that so far?
Yeah.
So for example, if you're operating on this point A, and then point E was here, like you said, if it shifted out and it hit point E, then it's no longer unattainable. It is attainable because our PPF shift outwards. And make sure to label our PPF with the number that it shifted out. So, yeah, that's it. Let me see. Take a look at the spec, see if we forgot anything. Saying, why are they all productively efficient, but not all of them are allocatively efficient? Okay. So I'll go through that in a minute. I just wanted to talk about the basically the difference between capital goods and consumer goods, because we kind of wrote them down on our axes, but I don't think we understand fully the difference between them. So what do you think the difference is?
Consumer goods is the finished product, and then capital goods is like machinery, so like the stuff they use to make the product.
Okay, yeah, that's close. Well done. Capital goods. What capital goods are is goods that are used to produce other goods, like you said, machinery. Goods used to produce. So e.g. machine. And consumer goods they aren't the final good all the time, but most of the time they are. It's basically goods that can't be used to produce other goods. Goods that So give me an example of a good like this. I mean, I guess it is the final good, but yeah, give me an example.
Like a cake.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, a cake is a good example, but I'm just gonna say clothes because I feel like cake is a good example. It's just a bit of a unique one. Wasn't expecting it. Yeah. Uh-oh. Don't know what I just did, but okay. Okay. So now we'll talk about our last point on the spec, and I think it's why all the points on the boundary are productively efficient, but not all of them are allocatively efficient. Okay, let's go through this. We need to know the difference between productive and allocative efficiency first. So all the points on the PPF line, all the points are productively efficient. So all the points on the PPF are productively efficient. So what does this mean? This means that productive efficiency is when we are reducing our costs like the most that we can reduce them. So we are operating at the lowest possible cost. So imagine we're a business, we have reduced our costs as much as we can so we can maximize, efficiency. And that's obviously at the PPF. This is our ideal point. Just here, anywhere on the PPF, we are productively efficient because we've reached if we're efficient, then we're reducing our costs as much as possible. So all the points on the PPF are lowest possible costs. Let's just write back possible costs. And then not all the points are allocatively efficient. Do you know what allocative efficiency is?
Is it that they're not allocated efficiently? So, I actually have no idea.
It's okay. basically, if things aren't allocated efficiently, then there might be more of something and less of something else. So that kind of makes sense. Also, it's allocative efficiency can be used interchangeably with Pareto efficiency. So this is a word you have to be familiar with as well, Pareto efficiency. Yeah, so this is where no one can be made better off without making someone else worse off. So that's the definition for mainly Pareto efficiency. What they mean by allocatively efficient is when, when more of one good is produced and less is produced of another, so it's basically uneven. And PPF, you need to remember that it only shows potential output. So allocative efficiency is basically the main thing that it worries about is how it's distributed in society. So it's not really to do with the PPF, because even if we're efficiently making, I don't know, we're making clothes and we're efficiently making them, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are distributing them effectively. So we could be making 1,000 pieces of clothes, but maybe all those 1,000 pieces of clothes would go to a really rich person, and a lot of poor people don't have clothes now. And that's an example of allocatively being inefficient. But yeah, I hope that made sense. I hope